Hi, this is Teresa Momber, and here's a look at the card I'll show you how to create in today's video. To begin, I'm stamping the Flying Dove image from the Peaceful Holidays stamp set from Gina K Designs using Versafine Onyx black ink onto white cardstock. And now I'm using my Prismacolor pencil 70% cool gray to begin coloring the dove image. And I'm using this where I'd like the darkest shading to be on the dove. You can add the shading wherever you think it's appropriate. But there are some little marks that I've added to the bird to give it a little texture and show some shading. So those are the areas where I'm adding my deepest shading. Now I'm switching to the 50% cool gray Prismacolor pencil, and I'm just going to extend that shading from the previous color. Now, if you don't want to switch to a lighter color, you could keep using that 70% gray and just use a lighter touch as you slowly blend out the color. But I've got this great big box of Prismacolor pencils, so I like to keep using as many as I can to justify that purchase. And now I'm switching colors once again, this time to the 20% cool gray pencil, and going ahead and extending that shading even further into the lighter areas. Now you can see that the coloring I'm doing is very subtle. I'm not adding a whole lot to this bird, but just that little bit of subtle shading really does change the image and make it so much more dimensional and lifelike. And here I'm using a salmon pink Prismacolor pencil to add just a little bit of color to the beak and to the feet. And now I'm just going to cut out the image. For my background, I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock that's trimmed to 3.5 by 4 3/4 inches. And I'm using a quilter's ruler to add in some very light pencil lines, measuring up 1.5 inches from the bottom and then 3/8 from each of the remaining 3 sides. Now I'm using Post-it note tape and just placing that right along each of those lines, and that's going to be my mask. Now I'm going to stamp 3 of the snowflake images, also from the Peaceful Holidays stamp set, using VersaMark clear ink. Now it's getting a little hard to see where those stamped images on with the clear on white, so I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some embossing powder on there. And this is clear embossing powder from Gina K Designs. But that'll make it a little easier for me to see where the snowflakes I already have are. And then I'll go ahead and stamp a few more. Now with the rest of those snowflakes stamped, I can go ahead and sprinkle embossing powder on the cardstock again so that it will stick to those new snowflakes, and just carefully removing the excess by gently tapping it off. And here I am using my heat gun to heat up the embossing powder so that it melts. I'm using Gina K blue denim ink and sponging the background in. And I'm tapping off the excess ink onto scratch paper first, and then building the ink slowly up by starting on the mask and working my way onto the cardstock. And as I slowly build that ink up, you'll see the snowflakes starting to appear. As I continue to sponge, I'm building the ink up darker along the top and lighter toward the bottom. And once I'm satisfied with the sponging, then I'll go ahead and carefully wipe off those snowflakes a bit, because even though they're embossed with clear, they do tend to pick up just a little bit of ink. So I'm just using a paper towel to wipe those off a little bit and make them pop a bit more. Next, I'll remove the sticky tape mask from the background. And here I'm stamping the silhouette branch image, also from the Peaceful Holidays stamp set, using Gina K Fresh Asparagus ink. I'd really like that dove to pop out a bit against the background. So I'm using dimensional adhesive squares for the wings, and I'm putting those in place, and then I'll peel the little backings off. But then by the feet and the tail, I'm going to add just a little bit of craft glue, and then I'll have that stuck right down against the cardstock by the branch that I stamped. And I'm just going to line that up carefully so that it looks like he's carrying the branch in his feet. The sentiment I'm using is also from the Peaceful Holidays stamp set. I'm using Versafine Onyx Black ink for that and just stamping it below the branch and the dove. To complete the card, adhere your image layer to a piece of navy blue cardstock, and then adhere both layers to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white card base. And that completes today's video. Thanks for watching.